it like just felt like the ground below us had slipped away. Things started to get together. Everybody rose up to the challenge that we have now continued, we have to do something, etc. But what we all decided is, why don't we call ourselves one name? Because we are doing the same activities, and let's adopt one name. Amubasa Shishukunj sounds a good name. So we adopted that name. So every children activity started to be known as Shishukunj. That joy and that happiness in us was so beyond description. Our own makan, our own ground, or all that, it was fantastic. It gives me so goosebumps. My God, what height Shishukunj has reached. But we never should be complacent. So my message to children will be: don't give up too easily, too quickly. Just give it some time. You will find your little slot where you are happy with, and you will grow, and you definitely will benefit. Barko, they never should be afraid of you. They will only progress well if they feel comfortable with you.
Namaste, and welcome to the next exciting episode of the Shishukunj Legacy Podcast. And today I'm so excited to have Amratbhai here with me. Amratbhai, namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
Amratbhai, I've got so many questions to ask you, but what I want to start with is, when did you join Shishukunj, and what was the journey that made you join Shishukunj?
It was around 1959 when I was 11 years old. And it just happened that we were around in the area and there was something happening at Shishukunj Kendra. And we were kind of, amazed of what's going on here. Let's go and find out. So with my mate, Champakbhai Parmar, he's still actively involved in Shishukunj, indirectly. So we both of us just ended up in this Kendra where all these activities were going on. And we're standing outside, a bit nervous to go inside because we didn't know who they were and all this. And you know what? That was the first contact with Vallabhbhai. He saw us peeping through the door, trying to find out what's going on. And he realized this guy's feeling a bit nervous, so he came to us and said, "Kami su karo je yaha bare su kam hua? Come. And basically, he pulled us
you're
in.
two lads standing outside looking a bit mischievous, and Vallabhbhai comes
Yes.
and invites you in.
Invites us in. Actually, not mischievous. We are being gentle, watching what's going on. But I think that was the first thing. He pulled us in, and they had come back from a long run, so refreshments were being served. And, please, alcohol nasto abjado, juice abjado. This is Vallabhbhai. So we were treated to orange juice and some biscuits and all that. And that was my first contact with Shishukunj at the age of 11.
And what were you like as an individual when you first joined Shishukunj?
I think by nature I'm an introvert. I am one person who's shy out in lots of things, you see. But I'll explain later on this, what Shishukunj has transformed into. Very introvert. It will be difficult to even get a word out of me. I can speak very nicely with a friend, but to speak to a stranger, it'll be very difficult. So I was a very introvert in that way, yeah.
And was this how it was in the family? Or was this just you as a young child was an introvert?
And I think all of us, my brother was even more shyer than me, So I won't say, I think it's just the way you were brought and raised in the family. It's a big family with 3 sisters and 2 brothers, a big family, etc. But if I recall my childhood, that I was definitely an introvert. It will be difficult to get me speaking, basically. Yeah.
But tell me, do you remember, Amratbhai, what was like your first responsibility when you were in Nairobi? Now, remind me, what was it first called?
Initially, it was Kalani. It is known as Kalani Ketan, and that is how we were known. And when I joined, it was known as Kalani Ketan. And as I said, at the age of 11, so I can't remember any senior responsibilities having taken at that time, like for Dastanayak or Dastanayak. I can't remember that, right? But what I do remember is that after a certain age, Vallabhbhai appointed me as a Kendra Nayak of our Brahm Sabha Kendra. So we had 3 Kendras. One was Brahm Sabha, which was in Nagara area.
Okay.
One was Town Kendra, which was downtown, right in the middle. And there was another one with Sharda Kendra, which was again little suburbs of
And
Nairobi.
how sort of far away from each other were they?
Well, not walking distance. They'd say probably about 10, 15 minutes drive. So that apart in different areas. So I was then given this opportunity to look after Brahm Sabha Kendra. And Brahm Sabha, it was Brahm Samaj, it was a nice big hall for Brahmins. And next to it, opposite that Brahm Samaj building, was Din Dayal Hall, RSS, Din Dayal Hall. And right in the middle was a playground of about, say, half the size of a football pitch. Was right in the middle. It's ideal for our purpose, like Vachma Ramvanu, and then Bal Sabha, they go inside the hall, Bal Sabha, Pratna, etc. There, again, Guchma, Badan Bare le aviye, is ideal for us. But what was the problem there was Brahm Sabha Samaj used to have occasions, wedding occasions, other things going on, often, Gayatri Yagna, whatever. And at that time, we'll be booted out of the hall. We would not be allowed to enter because there is a function going on. And we can't say, Aji Kendra Banche, Kanka Brahm Sabaj ma function. We couldn't do that. So we used to get together, all the children, and there were about 60, 70 odd.
Okay.
Not a big number. Brahm Sabaj was a new Kendra, not too big a Kendra. But in those days when an occasion was happening at Brahm Sabha, I'll collect all the children and take them to a nearby park. It was called City Park.
Okay.
A beautiful park with greenery, trees, flowers and plants and all that.
Did you walk to there?
Walk to them.
Okay.
But it was so safe. And we're not afraid of any risks management and this, that, the other, and think about, no, chalo barko, let's come on, line up please, follow me. And off we go. And another Dasta Nayak, another Kendra Nayak, Nayab will be probably behind the group, like, you used to see school trips.
Yeah.
And we'll be off, park maje and enjoy ourselves, start with Sathi Athini soon first, and then Gooch games and all that, Balsaban in the park.
Wow.
And those were the days, really lovely. And so Vallabhbhai around finish time would come with Nasto. And he'll first come to Brahm Sabha because that's where he would expect to find us.
Okay.
But when he didn't see us there, he knew where we'll be. And then he comes to City Park, and we'll sit down like a picnic, have nasto in the park.
Amratbhai, what was your relationship like when you were young with Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai?
It was like growing. At that time, as I said, I was introvert, very difficult to speak with Vallabhbhai, or I wouldn't say too much. But he would always turn to me and Amratbhai, Amratbhai, Akairu, always giving me little nudges and directing me. But he had that, I think, thinking back, he had that confidence in me that this young lad seems to be positive, and I think he given a responsibility to do it, and hence I was appointed the Kendra Nayak. So it was a challenging responsibility, but I thought Vallabhbhai has given me it, so I have to do it. And believe me, I really... So many Benos I still remember, so many Bhaios I remember, and one of them was Rita Ben Shah, who was in our recent gathering also. Mm-hmm. I was her Kendra Nayak back then. So I was, I think, doing a pretty good job. And so Vallabhbhai was very happy with that. And the next senior responsibility that I was assigned was Kendra Dinayak. At the moment, we called them Head of Field Activities.
Yes, Hofa.
And it was known as Kendra Dinayak. So I was assigned that responsibility. And so I was then responsible for all 3 Kendras, Brahm Sabha, Sharda, and them. So what I had to do is I kept a record of who's Kendra Nayak, who's that, what are their turn-ups, what is the membership numbers and all that, and general account of what is going on in the Kendra.
Now, a big day for Shishukunj London, which we do celebrate every year, and we remember and we share stories, was, of course, 1975, 2nd of February. Where were you at that time?
Yes, a day that will never be forgotten, and I'm glad that questions come up, and I would like to share some of my personal story around that at that time. Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai, as I wanted to show you this poster. We were doing this Amar Halaji play, and had been very successful both in Nairobi, 24th and 25th of
Show me
January.
the poster.
I think it was hand-drawn poster,
Oh, wow.
and this is the play we were doing,
So you're saying this was hand-drawn?
hand-drawn.
Oh, wow. And you've kept this from all those years?
Yes, and that was the show that is what we are taking over to Kisumu, Nakuru, and few other towns there.
Okay.
So, what was the date again, Sonalbhai? Just have a look at the dates again. Just remind me of the dates.
It's Gujarati Malay Kuch.
Yeah, 24th of January was Shukrawar and was first show in Nairobi, and the next show was going to be 25th of January, Saturday in Nairobi, right? So what was happening? We done this show. Show was successful, really uploaded. Public really liked it, and so we thought, let's also, now that the team is ready, everything is there, why don't we take this to towns like Kisumu and Nakuru? And so I think around the 28th, 29th of January, Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai decided, and Devchandbhai, the director of the play, that let's go and venture and explore the possibilities. So they set that off. And incidentally, I had grown so close to Vallabhbhai in many ways that I never hesitated to ask him, Vallabhbhai, can I come with you? Wherever it's going, Vallabhbhai, can I come? I'm coming. Can I come? nahi? I'm coming, Vallabhbhai. And that is how I'll say, come on, chalo Amratbhai. And બેસી જાય ગાડીમાં. આપણે આ કેન્દ્ર ઉપર જાય, હું આવું છું વલ્લભભાઈ, બેસી જાય ગાડીમાં. But that time I thought, Vallabhbhai hasn't asked me, and I'm not going to ask him. There may be space constraints, etc. So I'm not going to ask him. And so they didn't invite me for that trip, the one they were going on. And I still remember, I think Vallabhbhai will still come and pick me up because I was so keen to go with them, because it was a pleasure. Conversation we used to have, discussion we used to have. It was generally a sheer pleasure to be with Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai and the types
So
of
on this day, you're waiting, still hoping that he's going to come and collect you.
collect me.
But he hasn't collected
He
you.
hasn't collected
And
me.
you're still waiting.
And still waiting. So in my room, and that was some midway, I had finished, by the way. I was preparing to come to the UK, so I was all available.
Okay.
I had finished the job that I was doing, and I was preparing to come to the UK. And so I was available. So in the afternoon, I heard that hoot, Vallabhbhai's Volkswagen. So, here he is. He's come to pick me up. So I peeped up through out the window. Is it him? But it wasn't him. So Hansa, my wife, goes, ના હવે ફરગેટ નથી જવાનું, તમે સારું છે, તમને નથી લઈ ગયા અહીંયા આગળ, એટલે પ્લીઝ યુ કેન સ્ટે વિથ મી. બધું મારે જવું હતું વલ્લભભાઈ સાથે, મારે રિયલી જવું હતું. તો એ કે કાંઈ વાંધો નહીં, હવે બીજી વખત જાજો. And that's how, and they set off on the trip. And the day itself, on Sunday, Vallabhbhai's younger brother, Prakash, and I are of same age. Same, almost like months difference. And we went to a movie. An English movie in Nairobi, 2nd of February 1975. And then we had planned that we'll go out for bhajia and something like that in the evening.
Yeah.
No, we actually went out for a walk, and then we then came back home that we'll go out for a movie and have bhajia and all that. That was our plan.
Okay.
So he went to get fresh and freshened up. He dropped me at my house, and I was getting ready to go out again. And waited for him. That it was 6 o'clock show, evening show, and it's 6 o'clock already and hasn't turned up. So I thought, well, has he forgotten, or are we going, or are we not? So I was a bit getting edgy, and then I got a phone call from him. We didn't have mobiles or anything, but my neighbor had a phone, and he had his number. So he said, "Can you get Amrat on the phone, please?" So this Kaushik, friend of mine, neighbor, come, Amrat, I've got a call for you. So I went. And it was Prakash on the phone. Where are you, Prakash? I'm still waiting for you. Was first question immediately. And he said, Amrat, I'm sorry, but I've got some bad news to you. Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai has had an accident. What? Yes, I'm sorry, we won't be able to go. We don't know exactly what the position is. We still have very sketchy information. We don't know what it is. But listen, get ready. I'm coming to pick you up. We're that close. He said, please come and pick me up now.
Am I right in saying You weren't driving at the time, or were you driving?
No, I wasn't.
You weren't driving.
I was driving, but I didn't have a car.
Okay.
And Prakash had a little mini Fiat, It was a luxury, niceness.
Baba Gadi.
Yeah, I know it was a luxury to have even a car in those days. So, and he was happy to pick me up because somebody to, have share with and be there for you. So he came to pick me up, and then we all gathered at Vallabhbhai's house, and we were there waiting for the news. At that point, we didn't know what had happened. All we knew, there was an accident. So we were kind of eagerly waiting, somebody tell us what's going on, hoping against hope that nothing serious has happened and it's a minor accident and they'll come back home soon. Restless, for somebody to come across and tell us then, give us the news what has happened. At that point, Jaya Bhabhi's brother, Raichandbhai, and a very nice person, I remember his name, Somchandbhai, very decent gentleman, they both came inside the house, and they had actually already got the news, what had happened. And they were very, very concerned that news, breaking it to Pramila Bhabhi, would be a disaster. So what they'd done is prepared already to do something that this shock doesn't go too severely. So they invited somebody called Dr. Vinubhai Patel, who administered some kind of sleeping drug through injection to Pramila Bhabhi.
Like a sedative?
Sedative, some kind of sedative. I don't know what it was, but some Dr. Vinu, he was a doctor. They had all known. And Bhabhi was then wondering, why are they doing this to me? What are these people? And that the information had gone out very fast. Although there were a few phones, but it seemed it had gone out very fast. So there are people starting to gather to come to her house. And Bhabhi was kind of curious. Why are these people all here? Not knowing what had happened. But anyway, this doctor, gave her the injection, and then she was taken away to rest. And Bhabhi was sent away, and she began to feel sleepy, and she had gone to her room to sleep. She didn't know until the following day. Anyway, then this Somchandbhai comes and says, I'm sorry, go ahead. Namaste, Gadane. કારણ કે એવા શીખ નહોતી કે ત્રણેય જણા જતા રહ્યા છે.
Amratbhai? Tranejana. Who was this third person in the car?
I was the director of the play, Dushyantbhai Thanki.
Okay.
And he had also gone because to explore this. And then when they all three passed away, and this was the news given to us, at that point in time, I can never forget that day. We are there hoping that something good news, like that nothing serious has happened, and to hear that, it just felt like that the ground below us had slipped away. It's so difficult to describe that feeling, but it was so painful when we were all in shock, couldn't stop crying. And Bhabhi wasn't there, but we just couldn't hold ourselves together. We were just so much in shock because so many thoughts started to pour in my mind. They are our pillars. They were everything to us. And to have lost them in just like this was a shock unbearable.
And do you feel, at that point in time, did you feel, that's it, Shishukunj, over?
That time, I think we were in no position to think of anything else other than what was going through that. But just a few days later, and that, by the way, the funeral happened the following day because the bodies arrived late in the evening on the 2nd. So on the 3rd, everything, whatever formalities, final rites were done. We carried the bodies over to the cremation ground, and all formalities done. And by then, Shishukunj Mombasana Karyakaro, few others, all those social workers, I can't remember, there's so many people. There's so many people, all turned up to pay their respects and all that. And so we got over the funeral and all that. And then we used to meet every day at Bhabhi's house to say the prayers and pratna gain and bhajan gain, consoling each other. And it the chailu tholok time. But that's when the reality started to sink in. What next? My God, what is going to happen to our Kalaniketan? What are we going to do next? And I was preparing to come to UK, so I canceled my trip. I said, I'm going to stay on. Let's all get together and think about how we're going to go forward. And then things started to get together. Everybody rose up to the challenge that we have now continued. We have to do something, etc. And all those people around there then slowly started to gather the courage to carry on. You see, that is how we started. But the news had gone around to all Shishukunj associated people, including those who had settled in UK and elsewhere. Badane samachar badi gaya कि Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai and Dushanbhai had gone away. Now, I think you probably want to know why we don't mention Dushanbhai very much
And I think why I was wondering is because if I remember, you said earlier he was the director. He was an artist.
He was an artist,
a choreographer.
Yes.
Why do we not talk about him?
It's because I think his connection with Shishukunj was only as far as the play is concerned. He had taken on a role to direct children and create this play that we are all participating, right? His affiliation, his connection with Shishukunj wasn't as like we would say for Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai. We have a lot of respect for Dushanbhai. His teachings, his direction of the play and whatever he taught us was a lot of learning curve for so lots of us. And we still sing some of his bhajans that he wrote. He was a writer, songwriter, composer, director, artist. Amazing character, amazing.
Do you remember any of the bhajans?
Yes, always. Halumara Hari Jana Hari Ne Samar. Hamar Halajinu che. And I think it is in our Pratna Manjari. And there are a few others, I can't remember others, but they were actually taken from him, his direction. Yeah?
Wow.
But because of that, I think we are more connected with Devchandbhai and Vallabhbhai, who are founders, who were the people who we knew more.
So Vallabhbhai, Devchandbhai, we've mentioned Dushanbhai, Indubai. Can you bring Indubai into this story? As in, when did you meet Indubai? Who was Indubai to you? What was the inspiration there as well? Interesting.
I think that's a very good question in that before Kalaniketan was just a center of art. Music, I think harmonium sikun, tabla wagara sikun, gavanu sikun, that kind of activities. And we would create shows, sing filmy songs and create a show on a stage where we'll be singing all that music related. Sardarji involved, there are all those interested in music were involved. But at one show that we did, and I think incidentally Shalubai posted a thing about it back in this. In that show, one of the artists, one of the group participant, presented a song which was totally inappropriate for Shishukunj or Kalaniketan Mate, a very romantic song, or I don't know what it was, but his comments then were, okay, what is this? What show is this? It stings like a rotten onion. Gandhati Dungri Java Tamaro show.
Is this Indubai saying it?
No. Oh. Somebody who was a writer made a comment. Okay. And that really hit Vallabhbhai very hard. What are we doing? So that's when the next phase, forget this art side of things, let it carry on, but let's focus on children. And that's how we started Fulwadi. Okay, now where did he get this idea? He knows Indubai, who was running a similar Fulwadi kind of balcony pravarti in Dar es Salaam. And they knew each other. So Vallabhbhai had gone over to Dar es Salaam, saw what goes on. He gets the children together, Varta Karvi, Gito Gauda, Nasto Apo, all those kind of thing, appealed to Vallabhbhai a lot. This is what I want to do. So he brought that idea back to Nairobi, and that's how we started Fulwadi. And that started children, Elkone, focus on that, leave aside the art side of things, include it a little bit by little, but not focus on it. And that's how Fulwadi started.
Wow. So
we used to call Fulwadi.
So we went from Kalaniketan
to Fulwadi.
What happened next?
And then I think Fulwadi the Namatu Mombasa was running similar children activity. They called it Mombasa Shishukunj and all that. And we, in 1971, we had a seminar. Mombasa, Kisumu, Dar es Salaam, Badda Begatia, Nairobi in seminar. And there were so many other discussions at that point in time. But what we all decided is, why don't we call ourselves one name? Because we are doing the same activities. And let's adopt one name. Mombasa Shishukunj sounds a good name. So we adopted that name. So every children activity started to be known as Shishukunj.
With sort of the place where it was from. So Mombasa, Shishukunj, Kisumu, Shishukunj. And then ultimately you came to the UK.
Yes.
What is the journey that actually brought the Garyakas together who felt so passionate that there should be a London Shishukunj? What was that journey? How did it start?
Yes, because I think those who had come into contact with Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai had fond memories about them, right? And there was high emotions at that point in time because we have lost them. Very high emotions were running in everybody's minds, right? When I came here in 75, first finding accommodations, getting, feet under the ground, the table as it were, finding a job, all that settlement took some while. When in November, few of us got together. Okay, let's get everybody together, those who were connected. Sema Bhanubhai Pandya, Narendrabhai Desai, Nipul Shah, and myself. We started to think of how can we get everybody together, right? And Narendrabhai Desai at that time was working in Oxford Street. He was doing his chartered accountancy. Nakaru Prasad, you're working also?
Yes.
He was doing that. And he knew this restaurant called Mandir Restaurant across the street and very close by. So he approached him, and our owner was Rameshbhai Patel. Rameshbhai, can you give us some space? We want to get together. He didn't have any place to meet together, no houses or things like that.
Yeah.
So Rameshbhai was a very kind person. He said, yeah, come along. He allowed us the use of his room. And then four of us, we knew, we have now got a place. So we listed down those people we can remember, and they're there. And then we wrote a letter, I wrote the letter, but, with their consent and etc. And that letter was sent to them by post. And we met on 5th of December, 75. In the meantime, there is, because of this, emotions and passion and, we are Shraddhanjali aapvi jo hai. So Nipul Bhai had started a kendra somewhere in Turnpike Lane, Chandrakant Bhai Thanki, Bhaskar Bhai, they were all kind of starting something.
Yes.
Yeah, but it was Sunday, bhega kari, ramade, and everything chaltu. But formalized karwa mate, 5th of December 75 was the first meeting. And there were quite a few people. Then, Dhirubhai Desai, Narendrabhai Desai, Bhanubhai Pandya, Ramjibhai Ladwa, Dhanjibhai Tanna, and there was few others. I can't remember all names, and I can't find even the minutes. But that was the start. Let's get a formal organization going. Let's call it a name.
Yes.
Develop a constitution, have a secretary, have a president, and them kind of things, right?
So I just want to ask you, so I'm imagining that you're, in Kenya, and then you're making this journey to London. How did you come to London? A plane? A ferry?
Oh, no. Who can come by? I was thinking of actually walking.
That's a good idea.
I thought, it might take me a few years. Well, let me get there walking and then we go. But no. Of course, I took a flight. And
was that your first ever flight journey?
No.
Or had you been on a plane before?
I had been on planes before. Yeah, and my first trip, and we were just talking before entering the room here outside with Dylan and Hirobin. I loved playing tabla, and I didn't have a pair of tabla. So my first trip, as soon as I started working for a travel agency, my first trip was to India, only for one reason, to buy a pair of tabla. And I got it back and also toured around a bit. But no, anyway. So I
I'm
took
just
a
going to
flight.
bring you back to, I suppose the question I want to ask is, life in Kenya, life in London, what's the differences And how easy was it to transition?
It was very difficult because the life back there, with all the climate conditions and everything that we had, was a lot different. And that is what we were born and brought up in.
Yeah.
So we are very much used to it. And coming to a cold weather here was difficult to adjust to start with. But that's coming back to this point again, is these people were very passionate. We want to do something about it. And then for that's first meeting, and then we started to meet often at Mandir restaurant, once every 2 months or once every 6
I
weeks.
just want to ask you about these individuals that you've mentioned that
Yes.
were having the meetings with you every month. Were they all like professional people, or were they different age groups?
Different age groups. I don't think they're all professional, but they're all kind of seniors. Dhanjibhai Tanna had a shop. Dhirubhai Desai was working for a insurance company. Narendrabhai Desai was doing his articleship. And so we had a mixture of everybody. And
But everyone was passionate
very
about
much,
Shishukunj.
yes, let's do that. And that's how it started. And then we couldn't keep meeting at Mandir restaurant. So Dhanjibhai offered, let's see if we can meet at my post office. He was running a post office. So I have a little space at the back. So why don't we get together? So we started to meet there.
Wait, do you remember where the post office was?
In Easton.
In-
In Easton somewhere. And I think it's still there. He sold his post office. I'm not sure if,
Okay.
but yeah.
And was this upstairs? Or was it
Not
at
downstairs,
the back?
shop floor. So shop and post office, and at the back there was this room, and that's where and when we used to meet, we didn't have enough seating places, so somebody will sit in a box, somebody will sit down on the floor, and this is how but idea was, let's find some ideas for what our aims and objectives should be, constitution, president, secretary, Susu. We really started to put proper formation into place.
So was that the time that the first constitution for London Shishukunj was
Started,
created?
yes. It started off from there.
It started
yes,
there.
yeah. And we're taking other organizations' constitution as a
A template to work
template
through.
to
Yes,
work through.
of course, yeah.
yeah.
All right. So, Sarvodaya Niketan Shishukunj, or was it something else?
No, that's a good point. You know what? Dhanjibhai was running an organization, Kisumu, called Sarvodaya Sangh. Sarvodaya Sangh. And Apre Kalaniketan. And a majority of the Karikars were all from Kalaniketan. So we were passionate about our name. So we put forward that we should start as a Kalaniketan name of our Sanstha. And Dhanjibhai was senior, very, authoritative, his command. No, I think Sarvodaya Sangh should be involved in this. So while we came to a compromise, our first Sanstha's name was Sarvodaya Niketan. So Kalaniketanનું નિકેતન લીધું અને સર્વોદય સંઘનું સર્વોદય. So આપણું સંસ્થાનું નામ started off as સર્વોદય નિકેતન.
So, taking the name of Dhanjibhai's organisation and the name of our organisation, putting it together.
As સર્વોદય નિકેતન.
And then what happened for us to then go, nope, we want to call it Shishukunj?
Yes, 71 seminar. And that was, of course, there already. But as we started to evolve and we started to think, and then also Dhanjibhai said, we kept the name, but it doesn't mean anything. Why does we just call Shishukunj? So I don't know when exactly, but quite happily he accepted, let's call it Shishukunj. And that's how we really forget any other names, Shishukunj, and that's it. And that's what was adopted. I don't know when. I can't remember that.
That's okay. So in essence, Shishukunj went from India, went to Africa, it came to London. We had some foundation principles as such of Gandhiji, Swami Vivekananda, Maria Montessori, Kijubai. So those values and those individuals and their teachings going sort of through so many years, do you think today in London Shishukunj we still uphold those teachings and those values?
Oh, 100%.
Can you tell me more?
100%. I'm telling you. You know what? I can't think of it any other way. Let me give you an example, right? First, let's start with Gijubai Badeka. Gijubai Badeka was a reformer of education, right? He didn't like the paddhati of way the children were being taught. And in Kathiawar, in India, there was an expression, and I'll use this because this was very commonly used. Soti bage cham cham ane vidya ave ramjam. Meaning, that if a child is, taught with a whip around and with a fear that you must learn, he will learn quickly. That was the philosophy commonly practiced. Kejubai rose against that. No. Barko, they never should be afraid of you. They will only progress well if they feel comfortable with you. Let them get on with whatever they want to do. Just supervise, guide them. His teaching method, he started to change it. Bhavnagar na born, Gejubai Badeka. That philosophy, don't we practice it here? We don't scold our children. We want to encourage them to learn whatever they want. It is his thoughts. Maria Montessori, all right, Italian physician, what she believed on, what she preached was a child will best learn if environment supports their natural desire for acquiring skills and knowledge. That was her philosophy of education. Maria don't we do that? In Shishukunj, well, all along. And so tell me, it is so live here. We may not know or refer to them by names. If you ask our Talim character, who is Maria Montessori, they probably not know that. But indirectly, he is actually doing what these great people really showed us, the way of education.
And I do really like the way you've explained that, Amratbhai, because I think sometimes there's nothing wrong with having a little bit of a tweak here or a little bit of a direction there if it's still sharing those values, our fundamentals, our foundations, because society changes.
Yes.
Our priorities change.
Right.
But if we keep those fundamentals and those values, then Shishukunj doesn't change.
Exactly. I think
values.
Times with our methods may change, but the values don't change.
Absolutely.
And so coming back to the other names, like you mentioned, Gandhiji. Okay, Gandhiji's philosophy was seva, humanity, ahimsa, satyagraha. Satyagraha was more common so in those times because we are fighting to get independence. Satyagraha, now then not relative here, right? But seva, look, humanity, and then ahimsa. I think we are knowingly, unknowingly doing that. Look at the extent of our seva work right now being done in Shishukunj. We're involving our children to get involved in seva. We're taking them out to make their sandwiches and we're delivering to those needy people. Look at the other international seva works that through Shishukunj that we are doing. Is it not incorporating Gandhiji's thoughts already in our organization?
So now I'm too scared to ask you about Swami Vivekananda because you're going to tell me that we have that as well, don't we?
Oh, of course we do. Right, I tell you, he was a Vedantist. Yeah. Swamiji believed, if you read his biography, he was so, particular about saying, if you want to achieve the highest goal of life, be strong first. He used to tell loudly, say, go and play football, go out on there, do this, become strong. It's not a task for a weakling. Vivekananda used to fiercely say that. And look, what are we doing? Getting our children out on the fields in cold, playing football. We're indirectly trying to get them physically strong. Mm-hmm. Because if you want to achieve heights in life, you need to be first. And it's not that those weaklings can't achieve, they do. But I think that is one of the reasons why we are so pro Vivekananda.
Yes, no, I agree. So I want to move on from Dhanjibhai's post office. What happened after? Take me through the journey from the post office, the meetings continued.
So we hired a little office in Kenton Road, above somebody's shop. We hired a room. I don't know who organized that, but we got our own office but on rent. So we started to use that office. And then early 80s, we thought that place was becoming too small for us. We need to have our own property. And that's when, I was showing this our first building project started. Wow. In around mid-80s, like 85, around that. everybody was so passionate about getting our own building. So that was our first fundraising project. We did Ras Garba night on the 16th of April 88, sponsored charity walk on 1st of May, dinner entertainment, on July, something like that, Shabri. All that was to raise funds. And I think around late 80s, we acquired our first property in Nisdan. And I tell you, that joy and that happiness in us was so beyond description. Our own makan, our own ground, or all that, it was fantastic.
And in this country, London as
in
well.
In London
right?
as well.
Absolutely. So, Amratbhai, when you sort of just, sit back, have a cup of tea, do you ever sort of sit there, close your eyes and go, wow, look at how far Shishukunj has got to? How does that make you feel?
Not just lonely having tea. I think of that every time. It gives me so goosebumps, my God, what height Shishukunj has reached. But we never should be complacent. We want to take it even further higher. But to see what it was, how modest start it was in this country to what it is now, it is a satisfaction, happiness every stage of life, not just when I'm having a cup of tea.
I'll remember that next time we'll go down. And we've got our 50th celebration coming up. Are you excited about it? Are you like, oh my God, what's going to happen? How are you feeling? 50 years, going back to Monday restaurant, going back to Danjibai's post office, going back to a rented room in Kenton. How does that make you feel? We're about to hit 50 years so soon.
I think, yes, it is. It's going to be really an exciting time for us all to celebrate, those who are still in board and those there at the beginning. So, I'm looking forward to it. I hope our young team comes up with some brilliant ideas, as they always do, to celebrate our 50th anniversary.
If I asked you the question, Amratbhai, who are your inspirations in Shishukunj? Whether that be from Kenya, whether that be from London, Motanana, who are your inspirations?
Look, I think I personally find inspiration in young, old, young people, young children. Those who are connected with Shishukunj, and this is honest truth, those who are connected with Shishukunj, they think about Shishukunj, they do a lot of work for Shishukunj relentlessly. They find time, they put their energy in. They are inspirations to me. When I look at them, it really gives me goosebumps. My God, look at the work they're doing. So it is not one individual. But if I were to say what I really, if I owe any, from my personal development point of view, I'd say Vallabhbhai was my guru and my director, guiding me all through, which I didn't realize then. But when I see myself now, I think what I am is because of his direction. And as far as individual inspirations goes, I think everybody's inspiration to me, really, honestly. I feel, when I look at them and deep down, I think, my God, what an amazing work she's doing, amazing work he's doing. It's honestly, એટલું satisfaction થાય કે જો તો ક્યાંથી finding time, and we are not paying them, but they're still finding time to do that. Inspiration for me.
It's a passion of Shishukunj, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
It runs deep, as they say.
Yeah.
If you could give a message, whether it's to children who are our future leaders or to the parents of Shishukunj, what would that message be, Amratbhai?
I think by nature, children, how fugitive they are. They get bored too quickly and they want to move from one thing to the other, nature of children. So my message to children would be that, give it some time, hang in. Sanstatam Nevi Medisha, this Shishukunj is something for you and you will be running it sooner or later. So hang in there. So my message to children will be, don't give up too easily, too quickly. Just give it some time. You will find your little slot where you are happy with, and you will grow and you definitely will benefit. So my message to children would definitely be that. Just give it some time because there is so much for you here.
And to parents?
And to parents, I would say, yes, do get involved. I think if a parent are very supportive, child gets more encouraged. So if parents are doing something different and not encouraging children, then that child will naturally lose an interest. So I think I have to say to parents, first of all, take interest in your children, take interest in what they are doing, what they like, as opposed to imposing your interest on them. Find out what they are happy doing and encourage them and keep supporting them. And if you take more keen interest in all these activities they are doing also about Shishukunj, they will be inspired to do that and follow your track. So that would be the message to the parents.
Thank you. And then finally, Amratbhai, what does Shishukunj really mean to you when somebody says Shishukunj?
Shishukunj, I would say, if there is any organization I've known or been associated with in my life from the age of 11, and I'm now 75, so all this number of years, if there is an organization that I have been associated with, I have been connected with, I have made friends, I've found my all extracurricular activities, my entertainment, whatever you like to call it, outside my normal working life, is Shishukunj. So in all honesty, Shishukunj is everything to me. It really is. I may not be able to get actively involved at my age now, but in my hearts of heart, Shishukunj is there. Anything that's happening with Shishukunj is my, connection. I feel it. I'm doing it. So Shishukunj is everything to me. And also, I'd say yes. If there is anything, I was a very introvert. I couldn't even probably express myself properly. But if there's something that has happened and it's could turn me around, to be able to address an audience in Gujarati or English, it's all through Shishukunj, because that's where I've got chance to speak to Barco, speak to parents, speak to general public, and that's where I think my oratory or the speaking ability has come from. So Shishukunj is everything to me.
Amratbhai, namaste. Thank you for being here.
Namaste. Thank you.
So that was the Shishukunj Legacy Podcast with Amratbhai. We talked about what it was like back in Kenya. We talked about the journey to London. We talked about how devastating it was for Garikers when they heard the really difficult news of how Vallabhbhai and Devchandbhai had passed away. But we've also heard about Amratbhai, an introvert, who is now a renowned speaker, who can stand up in front of so many people and give a message. And Amratbhai himself has told us he thanks Shishukunj for being part of that journey to help him to be who he is today.
Definitely.
Namaste.